The battle line between good and evil runs through the heart of every man. Alexander Solzhenitsyn. There is something I've been observing that troubles me greatly. The observation in question is the deteriorating space for redemption in our shared cultural narrative. In my quest to understand why this is happening, I've discovered a phenomena which I believe is part of the cause. This video will be part one of that exploration. Now, of course, I see the deep necessity of justice and boundaries. We have to keep society safe, and so if certain lines are crossed, naturally there are going to be consequences. However, I also feel that it's very important that we have a path back should we ever fall, and sincerely want to right our wrong. If there is no path back to redemption after losing our way, I believe this will demoralize us at best, and at worst encourage moral failing. Because it will appear over time that only moral perfection is tolerated, and this being an unattainable goal will lead to people giving up entirely. I've been trying to understand why this is happening, and something I came upon is the concept of archetypal projection coined by Carl Jung. Archetypes are like intrinsic patterns that everyone shares. Think of them as fundamental themes that connect us all, like love, heroism, or fear. They contain powerful mental energy like emotional batteries. For instance, the mother archetype might hold the energy of care and nurture, which can make you feel loving and protective. In short, when an archetypal energy is activated in an individual, it brings with it a powerful swell of feeling and thought which influences the behavior of the individual. Sometimes a person comes along who essentially becomes a kind of archetypal transmitter for the public. For example, let's take Lance Armstrong. He was at one point a celebrated cyclist and cancer survivor, and was regarded as a hero for his 7 consecutive Tour de France wins. So we could consider him a transmitter of the hero archetype for the public. Now, what exactly do I mean when I say a transmitter for the hero archetype? Well, essentially Lance, who embodied the hero archetype, served as an emotional bridge for the public to feel heroic energy within themselves when they watched him. This is essentially what I mean by archetypal projection. Now, this can happen with any archetype. However, we are focusing on the lack of redemptive narrative in the collective. It seems to me the hero archetype being projected is a crucial facet to this problem. So returning to the public's projection of the hero archetype onto Lance Armstrong, the complication here is that the public appeared unable to access this archetypal heroic energy without the intermediary person, Lance. However, this isn't because it wasn't possible. In fact, when we are projecting an archetype onto another, we are actually just feeling that archetype within ourselves. However, we haven't consciously integrated it into our personality yet, and therefore only feel it within ourselves when we engage with or observe the person it's being projected onto. So what happens then? Well, no one can carry the weight of archetypal projection completely. This is because people are not one singular archetype. We are the deeply complex amalgamation of all of them, which is what makes us human. So Lance went on to reveal he is all too human, and admitted to using performance-enhancing drugs, and was later stripped of his titles and faced disgrace. Now, what he did was wrong, no question. But why did it take on such a personal charge for the public? Well, following the theory of archetypal projection, the people who considered and worshipped him as a hero essentially needed him in order to feel their own heroic feeling. Suddenly, in his admission of cheating, the public who worshipped him lost connection to that archetypal energy of the hero within themselves. The bridge that had been granting them access to it in the form of Lance Armstrong crumbled before their eyes, thus making Lance's wrongdoing all the more devastating. Lance went from hero to villain overnight. It seems to me that archetypal projection is the reason this had such a deep effect on people who never knew him personally. If we didn't need anything from him, it would be a shame to hear about his cheating, but equally it wouldn't affect us so personally. We would hope he would face his wrongdoing and change for the better, but that would probably be the most thought we would give it. It seems so common in our culture that the hero archetype is projected onto public figures. So, what is the value and function of the hero archetype? What does the hero archetype give people? Well, to explain this, I will give a personal anecdote. When I was younger, I used to idolize the tennis player Rafael Nadal. He literally was a hero to me. I would often watch videos of him before I had an important meeting, which helped to energize me and gave me a feeling of determination to face the challenge ahead. This, in essence, is the utility of the hero archetype. It gives us the energy and courage to face and overcome our challenges. This is why it needs to be integrated rather than projected. So, considering the example of Lance Armstrong, we can see what happens when a public figure inevitably doesn't live up to the one-dimensional archetype of the hero. The projection swings to the other extreme of the villain. So, how is this a component of the lack of redemption in society? Well, if the public watches this phenomena of public figures going from hero to villain over and over, it sends a message that people are either all good or all bad, but we are human. We are both light and dark. If the light has less and less opportunity to be practiced, darkness will consume us. In essence, we internalize this message that we are either all good or all bad. This means that we have no room to be nuanced and human. If we have no room to admit our humanness and our mistakes, we will hide it in the shadows and it will fester. Which brings us to the collective shadow, which we will explore in part 2.